How are you doing, everybody? Jonathan here, and in this video we're going to talk about a very important topic, and that is how to accurately and consistently take your measurements for your clients' assessments, especially during the sales process. Now, you can choose to do measurements at whatever interval you want, but the only reason I'm able to do this consistently is because I use my FitPro calculator. And it wasn't until just a year ago that I finally decided that I wanted to make it available all to you. So for those of you that use the FitPro calculator, I'm going to be showing you on the side how to input the numbers into the FitPro calculator. You can use paper, but why? You're going to lose it. It's hard to file. Files get lost. You want to make sure that you have something lightweight and easily accessible, and also that will give feedback to the client. And with the color-coded system of the FitPro calculator, I think that you're going to get just that. So I'm going to show you how to take the assessments. We're going to go over weight, body fat. We're going to go over anthropometric measurements or girth measurements, and then we're going to go over some performance measurements that you can do for your client. And that way you're setting the standard for what your client is right now and where they can go. So I actually did this live with one of my ex-clients, good friend and future trainer. So let's take you out to the field now. Fitness profile tools. Now, when it comes to doing a good fitness profile, it really doesn't take a whole lot of equipment. Now, from my left to my right, in addition to having a reliable scale, I have an Omron body fat monitor. In the middle, I have a tape measure. And to the far right, I have my phone, which I'm going to use for its metronome in my Ymca step test and as a stopwatch for my strength tests. Now, let's get right on to stepping onto the scale. Now, when it comes to weighing your clients in, you ideally want to have your client wear the same thing every time, and you want them to weigh in at around the same time of day. This is going to give you your most accurate reading. You're going to put the client's weight here on your FitPro calculator. All right, so the body fat percentage is probably going to be the most important measurement that you take in the fitness profile. This is because people nowadays are preoccupied with weight, but weight and a change in weight does not necessarily determine what your body composition will be. The only thing that will determine your body composition is your body fat percentage. So it's important that you explain this to your client. Now, after taking the body fat percentage, you definitely want to give them an idea of what different body fats tend to yield different levels of tone. So I've included a couple of tools that you can use. I have a men's body fat chart and a women's body fat chart they can use as a guide for your client to explain exactly what they're looking to achieve in terms of their overall fitness goals. Now, this is going to be very easy to pull up. All you have to do is download this from jonathanfitpro.com. You can put this on to your Dropbox and then save it onto your iPad or your desktop, so that as soon as you're done taking somebody's body fat percentage and letting them know what their range should be, you can also let them know exactly what certain ranges look like and what it will take for them to get to that end goal. So you're going to record your client's body fat percentage. You are then going to take that number and you're going to put it over here on the FitPro calculator. As you can see, if the number is healthy, then it will either be light or dark green. If they need a little bit of work, it's going to be yellow. If they need to do a lot of work, or if their body fat number is very high, it's going to be red. You can then give your client the range of body fat that they need to be in, and you can also explain how much of their weight is fat weight and how much of it is lean body mass. All right, so the anthropometric measurements or girth measurements, whatever you want to call them, it's the measurements that you take with the tape measure, are going to be very important, because this is a situation where you may not have as much rapport with the client the first time that you're doing it, and you're going through all different parts of their body. So we want to make sure not to raise their level of anxiety while you're taking their measurements. It may be uncomfortable enough as it is, even if you are mindful of their personal space. So especially for male trainers to female clients, you want to be mindful that you don't come too close to their bust line, or to the buttocks, or to any area that may raise their level of anxiety. So I want you to pay close attention to my verbal cues, my physical stance, and the directions that I give so that the client knows exactly what I'm doing. All right, so rule number one with girth measurements is that you're always going to take them from the right side. We're going to start off with the arm measurement. I'll give you a front view and a side view, but essentially you just want to take the largest portion in between the shoulder and the tricep, always remembering to stay away from really baggy clothing and making sure not to squeeze the arm with the tape measure. Take your result and then enter the number into your FitPro calculator right here. The next measurement is going to be the bust measurement. It's going to be very important that you're clear with your client with your directions. You're first going to tell them to turn their back towards you. and then you will put the tape measure around their waist, not around their bust. As they're turning their back towards you, you can tell them to put their arms out wide like a T, and then you'll say, as you're wrapping the tape measure around their waist, the client is required to put the tape measure around their bust. Once they get it around their bust, they can let you know, at which point you will tighten the tape measure to the person's body frame, and you will enter the bust measurement here. Now the next measurement is the waist measurement. This is the smallest circumference below the rib cage and above the hip. You are going to have your client facing you. You are then going to wrap the tape measure around the smallest area between their rib cage and their hips. And then you will tell your client to take a deep breath in and then take a deep breath out. I usually do this mainly because people tend to hold their breath. You also want to make sure that the client is not wearing some kind of restrictive clothing or tight clothing just over their belly button to manipulate their girth measurements. As when they take their measurements again, you want to make sure that it's as accurate as possible. Take the waist measurement and you can enter it here. The next measurement is the hip measurement. This is the largest area around the buttocks. Essentially, you want to stand on the client's right side. You're going to have them stand with their feet all the way together and arms in front as if they were Frankenstein. And you will simply wrap the tape measure around their waist, lower it to the largest part of the buttocks, and make sure that the tape measure meets on their hip, not on their buttocks, where you'd actually have to touch their butt, as this may be an uncomfortable feeling for somebody you just met. Make sure to record your number and then add it here on the FitPro calculator. As you can see, the waist to hip ratio will automatically populate. You don't need to figure that out on your own. The last anthropometric measurement that you're going to take is going to be the thigh measurement, where essentially you have the client stick out their right thigh, bend their knees slightly, and you want to take the midpoint between their hip insertion to their femur and their knee. I essentially tell my client that I'm first going to put my pinky on their hip, my other pinky on their knee, and they will put their thumb where my thumbs cross, or the midpoint of my thumbs crossing. There are some certifications that would suggest that you can instead just take the measurement 10 inches from the knee. However, as you can see, 10 inches from the knee may be uncomfortably high for shorter clients. So your best bet will be to announce exactly what you're going to do. Take the midpoint between your two thumbs, have your client put their thumb at that site, wrap the tape measure around their leg, and then you can enter your number into the FitPro calculator here. All right, so the resting heart rate is going to be a very important thing to measure when doing your fitness profile. The reason is people have an easier time developing a habit of going to your sessions or going to the gym than they do establishing a good eating routine or a good eating plan. So oftentimes people will be very diligent about going to the gym or very diligent about seeing you, but they're kind of lagging with the nutritional end. So when they see you and they do their fitness profile, if they don't see a change in the scale, they'll often think that they're accomplishing nothing. The resting heart rate, however, lets them know that thanks to their training, their heart is operating more efficiently, and it gives you more time and it gives you more reason to explain to them the importance of nutrition. So if Mary Sue worked out with you for a month and her resting heart rate dropped by 15 beats, but she didn't lose a pound, you can say, hey, Mary Sue, listen, you're working way less hard to accomplish regular everyday exercises. Your heart is much stronger. The reason why you're not losing weight is that you still need to work on the nutritional end. So the workouts themselves are benefiting you cardiovascularly, but in terms of your eating habits, there's nothing that you can do in the gym that's going to outdo a bad eating plan. So let's get back to work on your eating habits. Now, if you don't have something to pull from, if you don't have something good to say to Mary Sue when she doesn't lose any weight, she's more likely to quit. So you always want to have something to point to. Maybe it'll be girth measurements. Maybe it'll be something else. But the resting heart rate is a guaranteed way, as long as they're staying consistent, as long as they're working hard, to show them that they're making progress with you. All right, now the resting heart rate is best taken as soon as possible, as close to waking up as possible in the morning. But if that's not the case, you want your client to be completely relaxed. You want your client to have not had any coffee early. And essentially, you're going to have your forefinger and your middle finger rested on their radial artery, which is at the base of their thumb on their left hand. You're going to set your stopwatch to 10 seconds. And you're going to count the number of beats that you hear over the course of that 10 seconds. After the 10 seconds are over, you're going to multiply that number by 6, and that will give you your client's resting heart rate. You can put the resting heart rate here, and the FitPro calculator will let your client know how efficient their heart beats. All right, so the performance progression section gives you free range of the personal trainer. It allows you to test whatever you feel your client needs best. And there are tons of tests out there. There are strength tests, there are cardiovascular tests, there are flexibility tests. You may run the Gray Cook functional movement screen, and you want to use this section for that. But I'm essentially going to put Crystal through 4 tests so you can see how you would monitor it. The main thing, as always, is to stay as consistent as possible. We're going to be doing the Ymca step test. We're going to be doing a Trx row test. We're going to do a squat test, and we're going to do a push-up test. Now, the strength tests are all going to be as many reps as possible over the course of 60 seconds. The step test obviously takes 3 minutes, but I'll show you how to administer all of them. So you can see how this is supposed to be administered and how you can track this over time with your clients to show them how well they're doing with your training. Now, as you can see, I'm not breaking the bank for my performance progression tests. Essentially, all I'm using is a 12-inch step. I'm using a TRX with a predefined distance from the wall. I'm going to be using yoga blocks to make sure my movement standards are met for my push-ups. And I'm going to be using a Dynamax ball to make sure the depth of my squat is met. Now, the first test is the Ymca step test. All it's going to require is a 12-inch step or box. Essentially, your client is going to be stepping up, up, down, down at 96 beat per minute pace. In order to do that, you can download any metronome application on your iPhone, as you can see here, and then you can have your client step to the beat. Essentially, your client will be stepping for 3 minutes straight, and then immediately after the 3 minutes over, you are to instruct your client to have a seat, at which point you will have to take their pulse for a full minute. You essentially report what their heart rate was at the end of the minute, and then each subsequent time that you do a fitness profile, you can do the test and show the clients how their heart has to work less after doing that fixed amount of work. All right, so the next exercise is going to be a Trx row test. As you can see, the most important thing in the test is its consistency. So I have 2 panel mats that are a fixed position from the wall to which my TRX is attached for testing. I could very easily, or you can very easily, just put tape on the floor at a distance that you want your clients to post their feet. However, I have my client here posting her feet on the panel mat. And I'm going to use my timer on my iPhone to give her 1 minute to see how many repetitions she can execute. So the main thing that you want to do is establish what determines a good rep. And with this exercise, her arms have to straighten, and then her chest has to go beyond the inside of the wrists for a rep to count. Each good rep that she accumulates counts as 1. You then put the total number of repetitions on your FitPro calculator over here, and then her goal will be to beat her score the next time she does a test. The next test is the push-up test. Now, there are varying levels of ability when it comes to push-ups. So for those clients that need to do modified push-ups, I use yoga blocks. And my standard is that the bust line needs to break the plane of the top of the yoga block with the elbows tight to the rib cage. That is tested for 1 minute. For those clients that can do full military push-ups, their standard is for the chest and hips to make contact with the floor, for their hands to leave the floor, and for the client to uniformly lift the entire body back up into a push-up position. Again, this is a 60-second test. I use my timer from my iPhone. The total number of repetitions completed correctly is entered into the FitPro calculator here, and then the client's goal is to beat their number the next time they test. The last test is going to be my squat test. My standard for a good rep is determined by the depth of a squat, so I use a Dynamax ball onto which my client must touch their butt on each squat. At the top of the squat, the hips must open. So every good squat counts for 1, but you would not get credit if, for instance, your butt did not make contact with the Dynamax ball as you see here, or if you neglected to open up your hips. So I'm going to use my timer on my phone to give the client 1 minute. At the end of the minute, I will record the total number of repetitions that the client accumulates, into the FitPro calculator here, and then their goal will be to beat their score the next time they test. All right, so that's about it. I really hope you found this video helpful. I put a lot of work into it. I hope that it helps you to understand the importance of the assessment process and the usefulness in terms of retention and in terms of the sales process so that you can communicate your value to your client. If you want to sign up for the FitPro Calculator, all you have to do is go to fitprocalculator.com. Always stay tuned, make sure to subscribe, and remember to eat healthy, hydrate, drive safe. Stress levels low, get rest, don't slap anybody. Love your clients, they'll love you back. I will see you all tomorrow or the next day, and you have a good one. All right, and let's just pretend that you did the entire thing. All you would do is you would scroll down, you'd hit submit. Now, if you want to save this for your own records, you can go to the Save button, and you can put it in Dropbox. You can create a folder for all of your clients, and then you can put all of their measurements there. As you can see, John Smith, you can just take out the numbers and hit Save, and it'll automatically be saved in your Dropbox. But this has automatically been sent to John Smith's email. There goes your logo. So, fitness profile for John Smith. Click here to download your measurements. The client will then hit the Download Now button, and then they can access their numbers on their computer. So this is a very lightweight, this is a very easy way to deliver measurements to clients.